Do you ever feel a faint, unsettling hum beneath the surface of everything? That persistent whisper at the edge of your hearing? It's the sense that the world you thought you knew, the reality you cling to, is far more porous than you dare to imagine. That behind the comforting facade of daily life, something ancient, something unspeakably vast and indifferent, is stirring. It begins subtly, this unease, a feeling that logic is fraying, that meaning itself is dissolving. You watch the news, you scroll through your feed, and a cold certainty settles in. The rules are changing. Not the laws written by man, but the very fabric of existence. What if I told you this wasn't just a modern phenomenon, not just the chaos of our times? What if I told you that this sensation of reality itself buckling, of sanity slipping, has a name, an ancient archetype, woven into the deepest forgotten lore? A name whispered in shadows, a truth hidden in plain sight, far more sinister than any horror story. The whisper in the void. We speak of Lovecraft, of his cosmic horrors, of eldritch entities from beyond the stars. But what if these tales, this fiction, are merely a thin veil over a deeper, more profound truth? What if they are echoes of something humanity has always instinctively feared, something that operates not with claws and teeth, but with a far more insidious touch? Today we pull back that veil. We confront the King in Yellow. We confront Hastur, not as a fictional character from a dusty book, but as an archetype of unseen influence. As a force that slowly, meticulously unravels the very threads of your mind, your world, your reality. The name Hastur first appeared in the unsettling mind of Ambrose Bierce, a writer who vanished into the mists of Mexico, perhaps drawn into his own strange tales. For Bierce, Hastur was a benevolent shepherd god, a protector. But then came Robert W. Chambers, and with him, the King in Yellow. Suddenly, Hastur was transformed. He became something else entirely, something ominous, a name not to be spoken aloud. Chambers' collection of interconnected short stories created a mythos not of overt horror, but of a creeping dread, a psychological terror, a madness spread not by contagion, but by revelation. The mere act of reading a play, The King in Yellow, could shatter a person's sanity. It wasn't a monster that hunted you, it was a truth that haunted you. And then, H.P. Lovecraft, the great dreamer of cosmic indifference, took up the threads. He wove Hastur into his own tapestry of unimaginable entities. For Lovecraft, Hastur became an outer god, an incomprehensible force dwelling in the interstellar void. A being associated with cold, silence, and the emptiness between stars, a cosmic principle of dissolution. Think about that for a moment. Not a demon of fire and brimstone, not an angel of light and salvation, but an entity of emptiness, of nothingness, a being whose very presence causes reality to thin, to unravel, to become something else entirely. This is why Hastur's terror is so potent. It doesn't scream at you, it whispers. It doesn't attack your body, it infiltrates your mind. It dismantles your perception of truth. This isn't just about ancient myths or forgotten deities. This is about patterns, about how forces unseen and unacknowledged can erode the foundations of everything we hold sacred. This is a story about the subtle, insidious infection of the mind, the gradual decay of what is real, and it plays out in your life, right now, whether you recognize it or not. The subtle infection of the mind. The King in Yellow isn't a demon in the traditional sense. It's a play, a work of art, but it's a cursed play, a forbidden text. Readers are drawn to it, almost compelled. They turn the pages, consuming its words, only to find their minds irrevocably altered. A slow, creeping madness takes hold. Their perception of reality becomes warped. They see things that aren't there. They believe things that defy all logic. They are, in essence, possessed by an idea, by a narrative. This is not some crude, barbaric possession. This is intellectual and spiritual subversion. This is a horror that works from the inside out. Consider this. In ancient scriptures, particularly those of Abrahamic faiths, there are repeated warnings about forbidden knowledge, about texts or practices that lead people astray. Not necessarily through overt evil, but through a twisting of truth, a subtle misdirection. The tree of knowledge in Eden, the warnings against divination or sorcery that promise wisdom but deliver spiritual bondage, the very act of seeking certain truths, of opening certain books, can be a perilous journey. Not because the knowledge itself is evil, but because the mind is unprepared, because the soul is not anchored. Hastur, through the king in yellow, doesn't offer power or wealth. He offers a different kind of enlightenment. He offers a glimpse behind the curtain of reality, but at a terrible price. He offers freedom from conventional understanding, but that freedom leads only to despair and dissolution. It leads to Carcosa. This is a crucial distinction. Traditional demons tempt with sin or worldly gain. They appeal to your baser desires. Hastur appeals to your higher faculties, to your intellectual curiosity, to your yearning for ultimate truth. He promises revelation. But the revelation is that there is no solid ground, that everything is fluid, that your very identity is a fleeting illusion. And once you see that, once you accept that, you are lost. Your mind becomes a vessel for his reality. This is a pattern we see echoed throughout history. When societies lose their anchoring truths, when moral relativism becomes the dominant philosophy, when objective reality is dismissed as subjective narrative, the ground beneath our feet begins to crack. The air grows heavy. The whispers begin. This is not accidental. This is the subtle work of a force that thrives in ambiguity, in uncertainty, in the exhaustion of a populace that can no longer distinguish between fact and fiction. It is the insidious invasion of the soul, not through frontal assault, but through psychological infiltration, through a constant low-level pressure that forces you to question everything you once held sacred. It makes you feel disconnected, adrift, as if the very foundations of your identity are dissolving. If you find yourself drawn to these deeper explorations, if this resonates with that persistent hum of unease inside you, know that you are not alone in this search. And if you seek further illumination on the veiled truths of our existence, consider joining this ongoing journey. It is a commitment to uncovering the hidden, to peering into the forgotten, and to understanding the forces that shape our reality, often without our knowing. A simple click on the subscribe button can be your next step into the true esoteric. It's a small act, but in this world of shifting shadows, clarity is a powerful weapon. The unseen architect of collapse. Hastur operates not like a hammer, but like rust, like a slow, pervasive rot. He is the unseen architect of collapse, not through violent overthrow, but through systematic degradation. Think of a grand structure, a civilization, a belief system. It doesn't usually fall in a single catastrophic event. It weakens. Its foundations are slowly eroded. Its internal supports decay. This is the work of Hastur. He specializes in the unmaking of order, not by chaos, but by a chilling, calculated entropy. This archetype speaks to something profound within human history: the fall of empires, the dissolution of faiths. It often isn't due to external enemies alone. It's the internal rot, the corruption of ideals, the slow erosion of shared values, the insidious whisper that tells you nothing truly matters, that all effort is futile, that every foundation is ultimately illusory. In the biblical narrative, consider the slow decline of the Israelites, not always through direct idolatry, but through a gradual drift, a spiritual complacency, a turning away from the absolute truth, not with a defiant roar, but with a weary sigh. A subtle infiltration of foreign ideas and practices that slowly diluted their covenant. This isn't fire and brimstone. It's a slow spiritual decline. It's the unholy marriage of convenience and apathy. This is how the King in Yellow works, not through overt force, but through a silent psychological dismantling. Hastur is the embodiment of the principle that truth is subjective, that there is no objective reality, only perspectives. When this principle takes hold in a society, it becomes fertile ground for dissolution. If my truth is valid, and your truth is valid, and they contradict, then what is truth at all? When the common ground of shared reality crumbles, so does everything built upon it: trust, justice, community, even language itself. We are seeing this accelerated now, aren't we? The constant redefinition of terms, the gaslighting on a global scale, the inability to agree on basic facts, let alone moral principles. This is the work of Hastur, the insidious architect of this disintegration. He thrives in the gray areas, in the confusion, in the exhaustion of a populace that can no longer distinguish between fact and fiction. He thrives when you, the individual, begin to doubt your own senses, when you question your own memory, when you feel that the world around you has gone mad, and you are the only one who sees it. When the veil thins. The legendary city of Carcosa, twin suns setting over its black tarn, is not merely a place in fiction, it's a profound metaphor. It's the ultimate destination for those consumed by Hastur. Carcosa is a city of illusions, a place where reality is so twisted, so subjective, that sanity becomes impossible. The yellow sign acts as a beacon, a subtle symbol that marks those who are already on the path to Carcosa, or who have already been claimed by it. It's not a physical mark. It's a spiritual and psychological one, a sign of internal surrender. Think of the veil that separates our mundane reality from the deeper, often terrifying truths of the cosmos. For most people, this veil is thick. It protects us from the raw, unfiltered chaos of existence. But Hastur, through the King in Yellow, thins that veil. He allows a glimpse behind the curtain, but the vision is not one of divine enlightenment. It is one of profound horror, of an emptiness so vast, so indifferent, that it shatters the human psyche. It reveals that the meaning we strive for, the order we perceive, is merely a fragile construct against an uncaring void. How does this manifest in your own life? Have you ever felt that profound sense of detachment? That nagging feeling that something is deeply, fundamentally wrong with the world, even when everyone else seems oblivious? That the narratives spun by the powerful, by the media, by the institutions, simply do not align with the reality you experience. This is the thinning of the veil. This is Carcosa encroaching. When societal consensus becomes disconnected from palpable truth, When the collective narrative becomes a shared delusion, that is when the veil thins, and those who refuse to partake in the delusion, those who still cling to objective reality, are often marked. They are called mad. They are ostracized. They bear the yellow sign of those who see too much. In biblical terms, this thinning of the veil can be understood as spiritual discernment, but corrupted. It's akin to seeing the true nature of principalities and powers, as spoken of in Ephesians, but without the spiritual armor to withstand their psychological assault. Without the divine anchor, this sight becomes a curse, leading to despair rather than enlightenment. The King in Yellow offers an unholy vision. It offers a kind of gnosis, but it's a Gnostic path to nihilism, not salvation. It shows you the emptiness, but provides no bridge across it. It reveals the chaos, but offers no divine order. It simply leaves you alone, adrift in a sea of unraveling truth, believing nothing and fearing everything. You become a hollow echo in a forgotten city. The Unyielding Spirit. So how do we protect ourselves from a force that operates not with physical assault, but with psychological and spiritual dissolution? How do we resist the whisper of Hastur, the insidious call to Carcosa? The answer lies not in brute strength, but in spiritual fortitude, in the cultivation of an unyielding spirit. First, discernment. You must become relentlessly analytical of the information you consume, not just reading, but truly seeing. Not just hearing, but truly listening. Develop an internal filter that questions every narrative, every claim, every subtle shift in language. Ask yourself, is this true? Is this real? Or is this designed to lead me astray? This means engaging with your own wisdom, your own conscience, and the deep, abiding truths found in ancient scriptures. The Bible, for instance, is replete with calls to test the spirits, to stand firm in truth, and to recognize deception. This is not about blind faith. It is about a clear-eyed commitment to objective reality, even when the world around it insists on subjective delusion. Second, anchor yourself in absolute truth. In a world where Hastur thrives on relativism, the most potent weapon is the unwavering belief in a fixed, immutable reality. For many, this is found in divine revelation. In the understanding that certain moral laws, certain spiritual principles, are eternal and unchanging. This is the bedrock against which the waves of subjective reality crash and break. When the King in Yellow whispers that nothing is real, that everything is an illusion, you must counter with the profound declaration that some things are undeniably true. That love is real, that compassion is real, that an underlying divine order exists, even if it is momentarily obscured. This is where spiritual practices, prayer, meditation, and communion with the sacred become not just rituals, but acts of profound resistance. They fortify the soul against the psychological assault. They remind you of the reality beyond the illusion. Third, guard your mind and your spirit fiercely. Just as you wouldn't invite a venomous snake into your home, do not invite corrosive ideas into your consciousness. Be mindful of the narratives you internalize, the emotions you allow to fester, the fears you permit to dominate your thoughts. Hastur preys on doubt, on cynicism, on a profound sense of meaninglessness. Cultivate hope, seek out beauty, engage with profound art, with nature, with genuine human connection. These are the antidotes to the King in Yellow's venom. They are the anchors that hold your consciousness steady, in a turbulent sea. This is not about burying your head in the sand. It is about strategic engagement. It is about choosing what you allow to enter your inner sanctuary. In the old traditions, wisdom was often portrayed as a shield, discernment as a sword. You need both. You need to be able to recognize the subtle, psychological attacks that erode your sense of reality. And you need to have the courage to stand firm, even when you feel alone in your conviction. This is a battle for the soul, not with overt demons, but with the insidious forces that seek to dismantle the very framework of your understanding, to make you complicit in your own unraveling. For those who seek to understand more about these unseen forces, about the entities that lurk in the shadows of our reality, I have dedicated a specific collection of deep dives. You can explore these further in my Esoteric Knowledge or Demonology playlist. The link, as always, will be in the pinned comment below this video. Go there. Seek the deeper understanding. The silence of the unquestioned. Hastur, then, is not merely a name, he is a principle. He is the archetype of silent, unquestioned decay. He thrives not in overt acts of evil, but in the subtle acceptance of the absurd, in the slow creep of nihilism, in the erosion of meaning, until all that remains is a hollow echo. He is the cosmic indifference made manifest, the force that once unleashed demands nothing less than the dissolution of all things. Think of the silence that surrounds the king in yellow, the utter lack of explanation for the madness it inflicts. No grand prophecies, no dramatic confrontations, just a slow internal collapse. This silence is the most terrifying aspect of Hastur. It is the silence of an empty void. The silence that swallows screams. And this silence mirrors the silence of a society that stops asking the fundamental questions. A society that accepts contradiction as normal, that embraces meaninglessness as liberation. We are living in a world where the king in yellow is not merely a story, but an active, pervasive influence. His presence is in the algorithms that flatten truth into clickbait, in the echo chambers that amplify subjective narratives until they become reality, in the relentless pressure to conform, to sacrifice your inner truth for external validation, in the subtle, constant message that critical thinking is dangerous, that individuality is a threat, that shared reality is a quaint, outdated notion. This is the slow descent into Carcosa, where the rules of logic no longer apply, and where the most terrifying aspect is not what you see, but what you fail to see. The true, sinister truth behind Hastur is not that he is a monster waiting to attack you from the shadows. It is that he is already inside the shadows of your own mind, of your own culture, whispering that nothing is real, that everything you hold dear is an illusion, and that the greatest freedom comes from letting go of all meaning, all purpose, all truth. The ultimate triumph of Hastur is when you willingly walk into the void, believing it to be enlightenment. When you embrace the chaos, believing it to be freedom. When you accept the dissolution, believing it to be peace. This is why understanding Hastur, even through the lens of Lovecraftian fiction, is so vital. It provides a framework for recognizing the unseen battles being waged for your consciousness, for your soul. It's a call to arms, not with weapons of steel, but with the unyielding sword of truth and the impenetrable shield of spiritual discernment. It is a reminder that the most dangerous enemies are not always those you can see, but those that operate in the unseen realms, eroding the very foundations of reality itself. Have you felt that strange pull towards the unconventional, the forbidden, the truth that society often suppresses? Has a part of you always known there was more to reality than meets the eye? A deeper, often unsettling, layer beneath the mundane? I invite you to reflect on that feeling, to consider whether that unsettling hum, that whisper at the edge of your hearing, is growing louder in your own life. What does it mean for you to truly confront the unraveling of reality? Share your thoughts below. Have you encountered the subtle signs of Carcosa in your own perception or in the world around you? Your insights might just be the light another seeker needs.